Hi, I'm Jeff Szynski. I'm a agricultural and natural resource economist with the National Center for Appropriate Technology in our Butte office. We also run a program called ATRA, Sustainable Agriculture Program. We've done that for almost 33 years. It actually is a program of USDA, but we run it as a nonprofit with a cooperative agreement with USDA. We've run it now for 33 years. So sometimes they think it's a nonprofit, but really it's a federal program and that we run for. So it's about sustainable agriculture and farming nationwide. We have 5 other offices around the country, so we do this stuff all over the country and have a great staff and folks and been in this business for a while. And now I got to figure out how to make sure I go forward. Okay, I always get the arrow wrong. Well, this is the Coronavirus Farm Assistance Program, otherwise known as the famous acronym CFAP, and this is CFAP 2. And like a sequel to a movie, this sequel is better than the original. I don't know if anybody saw Toy Story 3. I saw many of them, remember, but they say that Toy Story 3 was better than the original. Okay, the basics. Okay, this is round 2. As I said, this is CFAP 2, and it is a new round of funding relief. So that means whether you did or did not apply for CFAP 1, you are, if you meet the basic eligibility requirements, can gain relief under this program all over again. So in other words, some people that might have got CFAP 1 payments will get CFAP 2 payments if they so desire and apply. But it is different than the first one. 2, it's expanded to the production of a very wide variety of crops and livestock production. In fact, it's amazing to me how much, it's almost, as I will show you later, easier to show the ones that are in, the crops and livestock products that are ineligible than the ones that are. It's generally an easier application process. This is the federal government, so applications and things like that are never simple, but it was, in my opinion, it's much simpler than CFAP 1. Then there's $14 billion available, so this is a lot of money going out. And it's done, the application is done. You can do some of it online. I'll show you some of that, the forms and things. If you haven't had previous experience with your farm service agency, you know, there are some forms, which we'll go through, but again, it ultimately, you will have to apply through your local FSA. And I wish you could say you could do it entirely online, but it probably won't. You might be able to do it by the phone and some combination thereof, but probably may end up having to go to your FSA office. Again, the application is opened already. They've been open since September 21st, and they will close on December 11th. And some more, there are maximum payment limits. It's $250,000 for kind of a single proprietorship operating farm, your normal farm. The maximum of payment you could get under this program. However, like all things in the government, there are different kinds of formations of farms, and that could make the maximum payment go up to $750,000. But if you're in one of these categories of limited partnership, estates, or LLCs, every person that is eligible that, you know, can get $250,000, it's really just 3, and then they have to show 400 hours of active engagement and be just kind of like a silent partner to get more. Okay, there are 3 basic ways to get money out of this program. The first, under the CFAP 2, is different from the other one. The first one are called price-triggered commodities. And these were similar to the ones that were in CFAP 1. They are barley, corn. You can read them. I put the ones in yellow that I thought might be more appropriate crops for Montana. But if you raise broilers, eggs, milk, beef, hog, pigs, lambs, and sheep, these too are under this triggered program. And I'll get to that in terms of show you how that works for livestock. And it's based on your 2020 planned acres yield and something called a marketing percentage. I'll get into that, and a specified payment rate. The next set of ways you can get the other set of crops are called, or next way you can get funding through this program is called the flat rate commodities. And this is what I thought was very interesting. I thought it was why I was very interested in getting organic farmers involved in this, because many organic farmers grow some of these unusual ancient grains, just different things. And these now are open for relief. So that opens it up for, again, a wider range of crops. Again, I highlighted some of them. I also should note the alfalfa up there. Buckwheat, Eichen corn, emmer, flax, Coruscant, which is the non-trade name of kamut. Many people know what that one. Rye, safflower, triticale. I don't know if anybody grows teff here. It's an African thing. I've eaten it. And these are is a much more simpler to get relief under this. It's basically $15 times your 2020 planted acres. It really is almost that simple. So for these crops, you get $15 times your planted acreage. And then they have the final one is called sales commodities. And this opens it up to the specialty crops, the vegetable producers, horticulture, fruit and vegetable folks, which were pretty much ignored in CFAP 1. Hundreds of specialty crops, aquaculture, other animals like, I think some strange things like emus and ostriches get in underneath this. And they're based on the producer's 2019 sales of all of the above eligible things. So if you have ostriches plus lots of vegetables plus, I guess mink was excluded for some reason. I can't remember. Anyway, there's some, basically, whatever your sales of those eligible products was, totaled up, it was $200,000. You get roughly, it has some strange formula, which I'll show you, but basically you get roughly 10% of your gross value of your 2019. If you just started farming, 2020 was your first year, you can actually base it on 2020, but that would be a little bit more complicated, but it is eligible for somebody that was in their first year. So again, there was an example of why it's slightly more than 10%. You could have a payment of what that gross sales would amount. But it's really just that number times this formula, which is roughly 10%. Now, here's I say that so all of those crops under the triggered flat rate sales commodity programs or areas of this program, a lot of crops are eligible, and here are the exceptions. In other words, a cover crop, because you grow a cover crop, you can't, I don't know why they would even consider that, but gardens became kind of an issue. I've already taken some calls. We have people phone call us or emails all the time about questions. That's what we do with ATRA. And somebody went, well, can I get money for my garden? I actually asked that question. I thought, that's interesting. But no, if it's your personal garden for your own food, you're not eligible for relief. But if your garden is kind of commercial in that you sell products and you meet the legal definition of a farm, which is the sales. So in 2019, you've got sales of $1,000 worth of products in 2019 from your garden is a farm. And the definition of a farm is even weirder than that. If you had the potential to grow $1,000 worth of crops, which could get a bit hairy here, but in other words, if you were commercial to a certain extent and had this $1,000, you would be eligible. But 10% times 1,000 is $100. I don't know if you want to go do it for a very minimal legal defined farm. Now there's always some devilish details against the federal government. This is taxpayer dollar money, $14 million of it. So we got to be a bit careful. Now, the first thing is interesting, though. It's a self-certification program. So your documentation will not be needed at the time of application. In other words, all those eligible crops that you had the 2019 sales and you said you have 200,000, you better be able to back up the 200,000 sales of those eligible crops, but you don't need to prove that at the time of application or really at all, except in cases where the FSA will do what they call spot checking. If they're suspicious of something, they could ask for the records to justify your application amount. So that's important, but it's a self-certification. That's really for all parts of it. It's not just for the sales commodities, although you will have records for your yields and other things. Eligible sales only of raw, this is another tricky one, of raw commodities. If you like have a farmer's market and you're making applesauce from your apples, it gets a bit complicated, but you have to take out the value that was added from making the applesauce. They're only going to count your eligible sales then would be based on what the value, if you sold those apples rather than making them into applesauce, what their value would have been. And that would be totaled up to your total sales. And then you would have that percentage formula work out. So anyway, you basically have any value added products would have to be becomes a bit trickier for those folks. Also, FSA County Committees, your county where you apply, may adjust the total 2019 sales if the 2019 total are determined to be unreasonable or inaccurate to reflect the actual. So now, how they're going to know that, I don't know. And given point number one in the self-certification program, just go in, apply, make sure you have backup records, and don't worry about this. But I guess it's partly to say that there could be some discretion. And we are watching this. There's a number of us in the National Sustainable Ag Coalition, there's some groups around the country, are watching the interaction between some of these folks that have had less previous action with FSA, and should they try to force some kind of greater record keeping than is actually required under the program. Yes, and yes, there are forms. Many of these forms you see here, again, first call you're going to have to work through FSA eventually, so you might as well get in touch with them saying you're applying. Many farmers will already have many of these forms in place on their farms. If they've had any kind of work with crop insurance or FSA direct payment programs, anyway, farm numbers, things like that. But these will need to be done. Conservation compliance is always, whatever they give federal money out, you have to be in conservation compliance. It's a fairly customary thing to do. Some basic information. These aren't horrible forms. I've seen them. Direct deposit information is to your advantage. That means when your relief payment comes, it doesn't come in a check. It comes right to your bank. And this last, the report of acreage, is a important one because, again, as I will show you later, that's important for the triggered and flat rate crops. Now I'm going to take you into the online thing. Hopefully this will work. And I'll give you a really quick view of this. So this is the main page that they set up for CFAP 2. Is everyone seeing this? Jamie, am I doing okay?
Yeah, well, this is getting set up. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, stop now. That's the basic. Not much more than showing you the forms here anyway.
So since this is being recorded, Jeff, can we also post this on our website or share it with our Farmers Advisory Council members in mind?
Yeah, ideally we'd love you to, we're going to have it on our website. We love to have everybody come to our website so I can link to it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a link to it too. I mean, it's not that big a deal one way or the other, but we generally don't like to but you kind of have to do that anyway, but it's nice if I give you a link and then you'll force you to come to our page. That's what we like to do. And it's the same for MOA. I'm not big on it either way, but yeah, you can get a hold of it. Any other questions? Hopefully this thing's gonna. I hope they haven't changed it again. I've noticed that even within a short period of time, they obviously did. This was kind of a rush thing, both of these programs in COVID land, and so they kind of keep monkeying with the thing every day I look on. So hopefully this won't be a surprise to me. Anyway, you just go on. Kind of a good way to just get an estimate is to use this calculator that I just hit. You can see there's other things too. And there's an apply online, but it actually isn't that easy. I wouldn't go there unless you have to get what they call an e-authorization number. And I find that painful. But if you have one of those already, and many people do more online stuff now with FSA, and you have that number already, getting one is a little bit complicated for a new person. So anyway, but that is possible to do it that way. Anyway, you go to this generated calculator. Hopefully this is going to take me up there. It loads down on my screen down here. You can actually download this thing on your own computer. So it's I think it's a cool little tool. And I got to enable the content there. So you can see this is set up like a little spreadsheet, and you can put your name in here, which I will do.
For some reason, Jeff, it isn't displaying.
Oh, shoot. Let me see if I can figure that out by share screen here. Does that work better?
There it is. You got it.
Yeah, I think for some reason when I went from the PowerPoint to the online deal, then I had to reboot it up to share that screen. Anyway, I'm just put my name in there, name, address, and then we just go down this form. It's pretty simple. I won't do milk. I'm assuming no one's a dairy operator here, but maybe you do some eggs. I noticed that the egg advantage isn't great. You have to be a pretty big commercial to get much money, but let's just say you even did 10,000 eggs. You get $375 in relief payment as an egg producer. So there's something there. It's not great.
Actually, I think that's even dozen, Jeff.
Yeah, 10,000.
Dozen.
So you can see that the egg benefit is not great. Let's put it that way. I don't know why this thing keeps popping up and stays there, but maybe it's just trying to warn us. Now this might be interesting because I know there's a sheep producer here. Now read this carefully. It says inventory, excluding breeding stock, the highest inventory of sheep and lambs you had on between the dates of April 16th, 2020 and September 1 of 2020. You got to figure that out. I mean, I don't know if that changes dramatically in that period of time, but for some reason, everything was around COVID. So they made this be within that time frame. So I'm just going to show you, if I put 100 head in there, what that's going to be. And that's what it would be, $2,700. And that's basically it. You don't have to, again, if they were to spot check you, you would have to be able to show that you had an inventory of 100 head of sheep and lambs during that period. But again, self-certification, this is your self-certification, this form. So you don't have to, at time of application, do more than that. So now I'm going to go to the sales commodity one. So let's say you, besides your big commodity crops, you had a big farm to markets garden thing going, and or you were like Judy Oswitz. I did such a blog with, you had $100,000 worth of gross sales of crops. That would be a 10,000. See, it's a little bit more than 10%. And again, of the eligible crops. Remember, the eligible crop list is huge. So it's likely that your gross sales in 2019 is going to be eligible. Yeah, again, it'd be pretty weird things that you would do that wouldn't be eligible. So that makes it relatively easy. Let's say also that you did like bedding plants and you did $10,000 worth of bedding plants, that would up your total gross sales. But you see, it's really just the total of your gross sales times this weird formula, which the weird formula is all that range stuff you see down there, up to $1 million. It fills in that for you, that formula for you. I don't know why they had to create these weird formulas, but they always seem, if you grew tobacco, which I don't think anyone does in Montana much, you could have, there's a special deal for it. Now they call it, they changed this, but they call it the acreage-based crops. These represent both the flat rate crops and the price triggered crops. And this is the ones that are probably more interesting to folks here. So what they did in this drop-down list, they put both the flat rate crops and the triggered crops in the same list. So I'm going to start with a flat rate crop, which is, I know some folks grow buckwheat. I don't know how much they grow, but buckwheat is a flat rate crop. Your reported acreage, and again, you can see all these red things, they changed this. So again, if you've had historic APH records, we talked about agricultural production history records for crop insurance, or you reported it for direct payments. Anyway, basically, what is your reported acreage for this year? Let's just say it was 1,000 acres of buckwheat, and it's a flat rate crop, so it's just 1,000 acres, $15. Your relief payment is $15,000. That's the simplest one. Let's go to the next line and pull up something that might be more relevant. Oh, I went too far. And let's say wheat. Again, they're calling all classes of wheat. So your hard red, your spring wheat, your anyway. Why should I think of that? The stuff made from pastry. But anyway, all classes of wheat: winter, spring, hard red,
Soft white.
Yeah, Durham. That was the other one I was thinking of. Durham. That would be in here too. Durham wheat. And again, now here it might be different because this is a trigger crop. Now you can see immediately the $15 went up. But I'm going to show you something. Now your weighted insurance approved, let's say that they insured their winter wheat. Anybody that does insurance, I do a lot of crop insurance, they will have an approved yield APA based on your actual production history. And that number will be known by FSA and by risk management. And they have linked the databases between FSA and RMA, the risk management agency, so they can find this number out if you don't have it, and they will verify it. So I think that's why they have it all in red. But let's just say again that your yield was, I'm back here, I'm gonna do it again. I didn't know that I didn't move. Okay, all classes of wheat. And I'm going to say 30, yield is 35 bushels an acre for this, all classes of wheat. Now you note, the number doesn't change, 15 doesn't change. Here's the weird thing, is that for these triggered crops, if your approved yield was lower and you were going to get a lower than 15, you automatically get 15 anyway. 15 is the lowest relief payment on a yield you can get in this program, even if you had actually lower yield. But let's move that up to like 50. And now you see it changed, right? Now it became a triggered crop because it is a triggered crop. And because you have that higher yield, it actually then calculates on a different basis, and your payment would be higher. But it's not adding it up yet because it's going to have to be done by FSA. So really, the form doesn't help you too much here because until you get into FSA and get these approved weighted things in there correctly, you're not going to really know your total payment. So it did take some of the functionality of the tool away. What is kind of neat about it, although, is if you look down here, you can actually generate the form, and this is the main form that you will have to fill out to get your relief payment. So theoretically, you could have done this at home, generated this form, printed this form out, technically could have emailed it to your FSA office and they could use it. In fact, you could kind of do that and use it as the basis of filling out this form and getting it approved to get your payment. So now I got to be careful. Where do I go back? Okay. Can you still see everything?
Yes, it's looking good.
Okay. I'm gonna go back to the to this part of the. So anyway, that's it. I'm gonna go to the wrong way again. Questions again. Anyone?
I guess I have a question
Go ahead.
for our participant farmers. Were you able to access CFAP 1 or the first iteration? And if so, how did it fit for you?
Did they all leave us? No, they're still there. You have to unmute yourself.
That question's for Mary and Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen says that she used it for wool and lambs. And was it a good fit, Mary Ellen? Yes, it was a good fit.
It worked.
Okay, this is Mary. I have Rick with me. He did CFAP 1. Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, okay. Good deal. Okay. Do you have any insights into it? And was it a good fit? Did it work well and easy, or were there
The
bumps?
only issue, I used it for the lambs. I have raised sheep, and I was happy with the $7 a head. I'm disappointed with I raised alfalfa, and because I seeded grass with it, and it's a very small percentage of grass, they kicked it out. So can I have them come back and actually measure the grass that's in the alfalfa? Supposing anything under 60% or anything over 60% should be eligible. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know the details of that. That just seems very typical of USDA to do something like that. But I doubt it. They're gonna make that easy, even in this version. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, what is what it is. You can pursue it and ask them, but.
But you used for the sheep, you used a $27 a head price. Is that for real?
Yeah, that was I don't know where those numbers. Yeah, that is for real. That's the number. That's the number that came up. Right. What's cool about that calculator is the formulas and things are built in, and so you don't have to, do it by hand. And so yeah, that's what it is. I've done it for a couple farms or ranches already. In fact, Dave Scott, a employee of ours, I've done it for him, but he won't take money from the government, so you don't want to.
Okay.
He's actually a purist, but Dave, look at this. You always tell me you're not making enough money on your lamb, so anyway. Any other questions? I just go. Again, you can contact us, either one of us. This presentation will be available. And one thing is, if either Jamie or I or whoever you want to talk to, if I don't think that you will, but if you run across people that have hard times, in particular people that might not have worked with FSA in the past, we are trying to really document any issues that might come up as this proceeds. This goes to December 11th. So there's this is another thing that people don't often ask, but theoretically, they're not going to run out of money for this. They claim they have estimated the expectation of people utilizing it, and 14 billion is supposed to be enough. And therefore, anyone who applies that is eligible and meets all the criteria and blah, 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 and applies should get paid. So it's not like a first come, first served basis. You don't necessarily have to rush out there to get your application in, as often happens, and then the money runs out. Now, having said that, of course, they could have estimated wrong, and the money might run out. I don't know what they'll do. They'll probably just ask for more money or something. But in theory, it's not a first come, first served basis program. It's all comers are eligible. Anybody that fits the thing should get their payment. And so anyway, if you have any experience or issues or questions about that, or know of anybody, send them our way, because I'm trying to document those cases. And there we are.
There, yeah, and really that's with any program, you know, just as an individual organization like MOA, we don't have a whole lot of voice, but we work with many organizations that do, and that do track whatever issues you may have with a federal program. So please let us know. So, well, Jeff, thank you very much. I think that was very helpful, very constructive. And thanks everyone for attending. And yeah, look for the video up on NCAT ATRA and MOA. And we'll also make the slides available.
Yeah, and don't worry about it. Yeah, just send it around to anybody who needs it.
Yeah, and please be in touch.
Thank you, guys. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
See you, Jamie.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you again
Thank you.
for all your work on this.
No problem. It was fun.